Look, we made it so the cameras are both in the same place, so we can talk to both of you at the same time.
Right, instead of looking back and forth.
I'm learning. It's all about starting and making mistakes. I'm learning from my mistakes.
Right.
I'm just trying to figure out how to make the quality of the Facebook Live video as good as the Instagram quality. Have you noticed there's a difference? You don't watch the videos.
No, I will not watch the videos.
I go back and make sure that the videos are okay. So if you're here, please come on and can you grab your phone for a second?
Yes.
Please give us a heart, a like. Make sure that we know you're there. I'm going to try and see comments.
There you go.
Can you unlock your phone, please?
Oh, sorry. Oops.
So yesterday's post was all about Dawn.
Oh, yes.
What I write about?
I totally know. Oh, risky play.
Risky play. Because I
just can't believe parents.
Okay.
Like your post when you wrote, right? That Katie was. Well, I mean, I'm assuming it's Katie.
Yes.
Was climbing the tree.
Yes.
And that you felt the need to have to say something.
I did, because they
drives
were
me insane.
They were looking around, wondering what was going on. Like, where was
their parent? Why was
that looks good.
unsupervised?
That quality looks good. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were good to go. Yeah. So my post yesterday was all about risky play and sort of not really free range parenting, but it kind of falls in line with that, and along with helicopter parenting, that new, not so much new anymore, but that term that is used out there for parents who are maybe a little bit too involved in their children's lives. And it's funny because through teaching and through our side businesses, our main businesses. This is my side business. Yes. Through our main businesses, we deal with a lot of parents of young kids all the way up to teenagers and adults as well. And so we see a lot of this with the parents that we work with as well. But the whole point of the post was about risky play and about whether or not how good of a job we do at letting our kids kind of be wild on the playground. Sitting back, the idea of being a lazy parent and watching from afar, and the lessons that can be learned that way. I think it first became noticeable for me with my third child because he was more of a risk taker on the playground and would be climbing up and over things, and I kind of learned to sit back and kind of watch instead of get involved. I saw you posted a video yesterday of Nate climbing, that was Nate, right?
Oh, yes.
Not monkey bars, but on a playground, going across.
He is much more of a risk taker than the other two. The other two won't, are scared to fail. So they won't even try the monkey bars because they don't think they can make it across.
Yeah.
And whereas Nate will just go for it, and sometimes he gets stuck in the middle, and then he's scared to jump because it's quite high.
Yeah.
And other ones he'll just jump down. And so he's willing to take the risk and then ask for help if he needs it. Or my other two won't. They just won't do it.
And do you think that at all has anything to do with how they were parented from a young age, or do you think it's innate in their personalities?
A little bit of both. Like just with Nate, the way he's definitely different personality than the other two. The other two are, I feel, more sensitive. That's me giving them labels.
Yeah.
And cautious, where Nate has kind of just done his own thing from the time he started, when he was born, I mean. And so I've given him more, maybe that's it. I've given him more free reign because I know that he will take that initiative, where the other two I've had to push or tried to push, and then I get tired of doing that, so then I stop, and then I don't necessarily push them to take the risk.
I'm curious if any parents of multiple children, like 3 or more, find that their later kids are more risk takers, or if anybody has like a 3rd or a 4th child who is really cautious. I wonder if that's at all, you know what I mean? Like we have the opposite, if birth order has something to do with it. Because the reality, again, part of my whole thing with parenting is the reality is I couldn't do all of it. I had to, they were responsible for doing stuff. Although those were the older ones, because if I had a baby, I couldn't go and get them a snack because I was sitting on the couch nursing or taking care of the baby. And so it was up to them to go brush their teeth before bed on their own, or go grab a snack, or make themselves breakfast in the morning, or learn those sorts of things because I had the baby. Right. So I feel like my firstborn, and again, I guess that's typical firstborn stereotype, is that they're pretty independent and pretty like able to fend for themselves,
yes,
and have those leadership
yes,
qualities. And I think most people will find that their firstborns are kind of like that.
Absolutely.
But the idea of, you know, climbing that tree and yes, having people watch me and like judge me because my child was, you know, 20 feet up in a tree, but it went fine.
Yes.
Yes.
I wonder if the correlation between allowing your kids to, not allowing, but like seeing them do that kind of risky behavior correlates to how they are when they're younger to when they're a teenager. Because remember, we've had a few kids in our program that are teenagers that necessarily wouldn't go on a trip without their parent, like didn't want to leave their parent. And is that because that they were helicoptered, or they didn't take those risks as children, so they were then nervous to take them as teenagers? And then how does that translate into adulthood?
Yeah, I think that it's both ways though too, right? Because it's us as parents. Are we setting them up for safe risks on their own? Like, are we letting them go on, in our case, because we take kids on trips, or as regular parents, are you letting them walk to school by themselves, or are you letting them go on their school? I mean, school trips happen now too, though, right? Like, we have kids in French immersion, so there's always a Quebec trip or something, or there's outdoor ed in grade 6 and 7, where they go to sleepaway camp for a few weeks. I know lots of parents who send their kids to summer camp.
Me.
Oh, wait, right? Rue's going pretty soon.
Yes, I was thinking about that too, because one of my fondest memories is going to summer camp with my sister and I when we were kids. We'd go to, we'd meet at the Salvation Army, we'd get on the bus, and I was for sure grade 5, which meant my sister was maybe grade 3, and they would take us all to the ferry, go over to Gibson's, and do the camp, and it was so much fun. And so I wanted to give that same experience to my kids. And whereas Riley, when she went into grade 4, she was allowed to go to camp that summer between 3 and 4, and she went for the 3 days, and she came back immediately saying she wanted to go again for a week. So she's been back now for a week for a few years and loves it. And she leaves actually Monday to go away for a week to camp, and she would love to go for 2 weeks if she could. So I told her next year, if she saves up enough money, because she does bottle drives to pay for her own camp, or part of it, I mean, and if she saved up enough, then she could go for 2 weeks next year. Where my 2 boys, well, Nate's not old enough yet, but Tom is. He will not go. I want him to go even just for the 3 nights, and he won't go. He's too nervous to take the risk to go. And I think that's a big one, right? To send your kid away for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, but you started small. So again, like you started with 3-day camp. Yeah. You then went to a week-long camp, and now you might go to a couple of weeks camp, right? And so that idea that you're building up to that amount. Right. I know lots of kids who go away all summer that are gone for 6 or 7 weeks at summertime away for summer camp. And I get, and so that's a whole different kind of being away from home and learning all those skills. So summer camp. I never went to summer camp because I was a gymnast, and so I trained all summer. Right. So I never went to camp. My brothers went to camp, and my brothers were camp counselors, and so they had that experience. Oh, fun. Yeah. But I never went because I was involved in sports. And that's the same with my kids. Don't go away to summer camp because we're doing summer sports, and so they can't be away for a week at a time. And because we're both educators, we're off in the summer, and so that's our family time. Like for us, that's the time that we spend together. And so summer camp doesn't really fit into that for us. No. That's just, I know there's lots of parents who have to work full time all summer. And so summer camp going away is a great option, right? Because then they get to go and do something instead of staying at home. And they're with making new friends. Right, maybe they're teenagers or young. Are they at home and on technology all day, not doing anything, because they're probably not going to day camps at that age, at 13, 14. It's hard to find day camps that keep them active and involved. So summer camps or adventure camps are really fun and a great experience as well. So those are all kinds of things that you can do to try to alleviate that. Now, I find that their second child is a bit more of a challenge, right? He does not want to be off alone, does not really engage in risky play, or will at the playground. Can you let him go on his own?
Yeah, he does his own thing at the playground. He'll play with his friends. He'll play the games that they normally play, but he is just very cautious about it. Mm-hmm. And and if he feels like he is in danger, he will stop. Mm-hmm. Whereas Nate would just go and go for it, and he doesn't care if he gets hurt.
Have you ever like not rescued him? And so
Yeah.
just like jump down?
Well, I mean, now that he's 9 now, so I don't actually engage in anything
Yeah.
with him. So I mean, he's getting better as he gets older.
Mm-hmm.
But even we had talked about maybe putting him in a sports camp over the summer. So it's like, those half-day camps that are just local to see if he could do that. He would do that. But he's very hesitant to try that, and I don't want to pay the money if he's not going to go. So we're not there yet. But I feel like he's getting better every summer. He's just still, it's that whole fear of trying the thing. He's scared to try, but I know that when he usually does the thing, then he enjoys it.
Mm-hmm.
Like soccer. He used to not want to go to soccer for 3 years every day. He did not want to go to soccer. But once he got there and the coach called him in, he was totally fine. And he loved being there. But to get there or to get to school, it's the same thing.
Yeah, that's hard, right? Because you have to go through that pain.
Yeah.
The pain of getting out of the house, the pain of knowing that at the end of it, there will be a positive out of it, but that you have to go through the tears and the drama and all of that in order to get them to where it is they want to go.
Yes.
Right.
And because with it just being even with school for the longest time, that like 3 years of that, because this was probably the first year he didn't fight me to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Like that becomes very draining, and I don't want to fight the fight anymore. So that's also not the best, but now that he's getting, I feel like this past year going grade 3 was a good year for him. He's not growing up, but he's changing. He's feeling like he can do more. So we're going to try and take more risks with him. I mean, we're going on a plane next month.
Right.
So I'm taking the kids to Disneyland for 4 days. And the reason I did it when Riley was 3 and Thomas was just a baby. And then we haven't done it again is because of Thomas. It's because he's so nervous to go on rides, to go on a plane. But we've talked about it, and he said he wants to go, whereas before he would not. He would say, no, I don't want to do it. But now he's like, I will do it. And that he wants to go on the rides. And
have you thought about, we've talked a little bit about how can we prepare him for the Disneyland and for the rides.
Right.
We thought about the whole going to the peony and like doing some of the baby rides and just
yes, we're going to do that. We're going to go
take him there. So again, how can you set them up for success, right? Like by experiencing those sorts of things. Right. We've talked about the going to soccer, going to basketball. He's really into basketball. How do we get him out the house and get him at there? And that it is kind of taking the risk on the money. And I get that money is a big piece, that if you're spending so much money on a class and then them not to participate, I think that the reality is you like, it's the pain you have to go through in order to get to the final product though. Yeah. So yes, you do have to pay the money. You do need to go and you need to either set the expectations that you'll sit there with him for the first day or for the second day. And then for the third day, you're going to stay for the first 10 minutes and come for the last 10 minutes. And then maybe for the fourth day, the same. Yeah. But that as much as possible, one of the tricks and one of my future blog posts is going to be about not consistency, but setting expectations, like them knowing what is happening so that they're not shocked or surprised. Right. So if you say, I've signed you up for basketball camp, and you, again, let them know that, and then let them know that you're going to stay for the first day and the second day, but then on the third, and then maybe don't let them know in advance, but the second day, the next day, I'm going to come for first, and then hope that the coaches, like if you pick a quality camp that you're registering your kids in, those coaches should be pretty qualified on handling the child that if you leave. Yeah. So I wouldn't put them in like a camp that didn't have, like the first camp you're going to go to should be a high quality camp with instructors who know how to handle separation anxiety and kids that might throw a little bit of a temper tantrum at the time, but know how to handle that because they've handled that situation so many times, because your kid's not the only kid, right? Like, sometimes we think that our child is the only child who has this problem, or we as moms are the only moms that suffer from these, a child who does this, but like we're not. No. Like, I mean, as much as I talk about some of the strategies and techniques that have worked for me and in my family, it's not perfect. Like, of course I talk about using a positive voice. I mean, this summer I've had a few yelling matches with a couple of my children. Like, nobody's perfect. And I think it's important that we all realize that and support each other. Right. And so when I talk about being a helicopter mom or a lazy parent. I mean, I think a big piece of this is self-awareness of yourself as a parent. And so what's that old adage, old saying that when you know better, you do better. And so with all aspects of my life, as I've gotten older, because I'm getting up there, the lovely thing about going into your 40s and into your 50s is that you know so much more about who you are and what you're not trying to for. And so part of that goes to reflection on myself about what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, and being real with myself, like that I know that I get angry, like I can get angry, and did I handle that situation properly, or no, was I being a bad role model to my kids because I blew up or yelled at them? Yeah. Or if you are at the, knowing, like I think it was Kelly wrote a great comment on the Facebook page about knowing with her first one that she was very much a helicopter parent, because of course you are, it's your first child. Yeah. And not being hard on yourself because that's you. Every parent usually with your first child is going to be scared that they're going to get hurt, or you don't just all of a sudden, of course, let your precious baby go and try things. Right. That would be weird, right? If you were, like, be honest with yourself. Every parent is like that. But if we can be aware of situations where we can let go, or we can let them explore and fail, if your child we had a whole bunch of toddlers in the gym a couple of weeks ago. With all of our ex-athletes and their babies. So they were all like 1 to 3 years old, the toddlers running around, and like when they fall, do you rush over there or do you wait? I know one of my things I always did, I learned really quickly, was just wait. How do they react? Like, did they kind of look at you? So I made sure I wasn't looking. That was my first strategy. No eye contact. They fell down. I would look away and I would wait, kind of through the corner of my eye, and see what their reaction was. And did they get themselves up, kind of dust themselves off and keep playing? Or if I did happen to go, oh my gosh, are you okay? Well, no, then the tears start coming. Yes. And then it's like they're reacting to your reaction to them. Like, am I supposed to be hurt, or am I supposed to get up? I feel like that's where it really all starts. in that moment when the kids are old enough to crawl or to start playing on their own. And they look right at you to see what your reaction is. And if you can be nonchalant about it, then I feel like then they'll just keep going, and then they don't get scared. Like, we're not scaring them off. Right, because little ones are pretty resilient, right? Yes, they're kind of made of, we think they are. Right, their bones are almost made of rubber, right? They like fall down and hit themselves. And I agree that I think with my fourth, I really learned, I never reacted. Like, I waited. And so she just kind of like, she falls, she just gets up and she goes. Like, she doesn't really ever cry. I don't think she ever cries out of pain. Like, she doesn't hurt herself very often. Yeah. And so, but with the first couple, we have to admit that that's what we're doing. And so if we're aware that we're doing it, then that's the first step in understanding and trying to change our behavior in the hopes of helping to mold our children's behavior so that we can set them up for greater success. Yeah. And know that failure is okay. Right. Which is the big one, right? It's okay to fail. It's okay to fall down. It's okay to try the monkey bars and not make it. Right. I don't expect you to be able to make it the first time. How many children do we see that expect to be able to do something, because we deal with children who are learning physical activity, expecting to be able to do something like a somersault or a cartwheel the first time. Of course they're not going to be able to do it. That's not even a realistic expectation. No. And so if we understand that, and we're trying to make sure we're communicating with the children that they shouldn't have the expectation that they're going to be able to do it their first try, that's okay. Yeah. Like, they might see some kids who are doing it, monkey bars the first try, but that's not the reality. That's not the normal, typical behavior that you're going to see. Right. Things take time. Yeah. And then allowing them to expressing that to them, and then knowing that it's also okay for us as parents, that we're going to fail at it sometimes, but knowing, like, catching yourself on it, going, okay, next time I'm not going to do this. Or if it was a yelling or getting mad, right, apologizing to the kid, saying that, oh, maybe we shouldn't have reacted that way, or talk about how we should handle it the next time, then that helps too. Yeah. 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 Any comments or questions out there? I see Kelly there, but I can't see your comments, Kelly, at the moment. No. And so, I think those are my key things, takeaways from this week's blog post. I'm writing about 3 or 4 a week now, and then following up with a video on the Tuesday or Thursday. So this one again about risky play, and the clip where I took the kids yesterday to the clay cliffs, which is really, like, you can't see it in the video so much, but it really is like a steep mountain of sand. And they're climbing, 50 feet up into the air, 50 feet up the mountain, and then jumping down or trying to figure out how to get down. Or
I was waiting for them to like start rolling down that, like as they're running down, like the snowball effect.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, but it is what it is. So
yeah. Starting small, letting them do little things at a time, and then watching. And so the 3 key takeaways, let's say, are 1, start when they're young, right? Like, make sure you can even set them up for failure. What is that old thing about kids? Like, they fall down when they learn to walk over and over and over again. Like, they don't walk right away. They fall, they get up. They fall, they get up. Like, they don't not just stop learning how to walk.
Right. And so at what point in their life do they start to think that they're going to learn something immediately and not have to have patience and persistence to learn the skill? And at what point do we as parents start to think, oh, well, they should know how to do that right away?
Right.
Because that's partly our fault, right? Yes. Like, why we know it takes them a long time to learn to walk, and they're going to fall and fall and fall. And yet we expect them to succeed, learn to read, or I don't know, learn to behave or eat properly or have good manners, that they're going to fail over and over again. So that's a big one for me. And then the second piece of that, or third piece of that, is us as parents and our behavior and how it's dictating what they're doing. So they're looking to us for guidance and what our reaction is to their failures and their ability to get back up and try again, and their risk. And I think it's so important that kids learn through play and learn through a risky play. Right. Or, that's what I call it, right? Like risky play, how important I think that is in their life, so that they can learn their own limits. Because that's that last piece of it. They won't if you start young enough with them, they learn what their limits are naturally over time. If you wait until they're 8 or 9 and then expect them to do it, they may take risks, or as teenagers, they're going to take risks and not have this sort of understanding of themselves and what is appropriate risk and isn't an appropriate risk. And so that's another piece of that. They may think it's okay to jump off a bridge into water because they have never done it growing up. They may not realize all of the inherent risks that are involved, or know their own body of what they've been able to do, right? And so if peer pressure starts to come into it, or other influences, they won't know their own abilities as well as they would have had they been taking those risks along the way.
And that just made me think of something. I don't know if it relates at all, but like regards to Riley, sometimes it's not that she took a risk, but in her decision making, she doesn't always make the best decisions. And so there's a clear pattern from the time she was 3 or 4. She'd sometimes make a decision, and then afterwards she realizes it was the wrong decision, and just the feeling she got from it, and that pit in your stomach thing. And so now I use that with her. Her being 11, almost 11. I don't even know how old she is. Anyways,
11.
She is okay. That she knows that feeling. So even when she has peer pressure, and she gets that feeling, she knows that that's something that she shouldn't then engage in. And thinking about that, she's going to grade 7, so with high school coming up. And with her just going to camp, we had to have to talk again, because there are boys at this camp, and some of the girls in her grade are dating already. Craziness. And so we had a talk, and remembering that pit in your stomach. And I feel like if kids haven't been able to make their own decisions or take any risks, they won't know that feeling. And then they may do something that's way worse than, her taking candy or whatever it was back in the day. Yeah.
Yes. That is something that I have talked about with my kids a lot, and that is that intuition, that self, whatever that's called. I talk about that with my kids, and I've talked about it quite a few times with all of them, about listening to their gut, mostly around when they meet people, or the conversation's mostly been about when they meet new people or even old people. But if they get that feeling like that person is kind of off, or a situation is off, to listen to their gut. It's 100% usually right, and it's proven it to me times. When I've done a thing where I remember this one. I was going to a meeting in some part of Vancouver, and I parked my car, and there were people across the street hanging out, and I had a bag in my car, and I was like, oh, I should take my car. Those people, I just had a bad feeling about it. And sure enough, when I came back out, my car had been broken into. And like little feelings like that, right? Or about people that you meet that just give you that heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a real word. Heebie-jeebies, right? That to listen to that gut. And even the same thing is for when they're going to high school or when they're meeting new people or starting a new activity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the people that they don't feel good around is probably a pretty good indication of whether or not they should and make a big effort with those, or people who give them the right kind of feeling, right? That we need to listen to that. Mm-hmm. Same, and that falls in line with what we're talking about, because when they're trying to take risks, that they should have a feeling about whether or not it's really bad or if they're just scared, right? Or do they have the confidence and ability to be able to take that risk? Yeah. And again, I think the biggest piece is starting with them young, right? Yeah. Like whether you have like a local jungle gym or place where they can go and climb and fail safely and learn those kinds of skills, or your outdoor play, where can they go? Yeah. And can you as a parent sit back and let them do it? Now, again, be really careful about safety, like water safety and things like that. I mean, kids need to know. We don't need to go in the water on their own. Drowning and summer drowning, it's that time of year. So, you know, always having a watchful eye at all times and never being relaxed around water. I just read another really sad story from another mom blogger whose daughter, like literally they just weren't watching her for 5 seconds and she was found in the hot tub. They revived her and she was fine, but you just can't ever assume that in those situations, high risk situations, you have to be watching your child at all times. And water for me has always been a big one. I was vigilant around water, even because I was really scared of that, even baths with this much water in it and things like that. So I think water play, you need to be really careful until your children know how to swim really well. And even then, you know, following water safety. But things like broken arms and broken legs, they heal. Those things are not life-threatening. And so the more we can expose them to those sorts of risks, I think the better. Yeah, I think so too. And the confident kids we're going to have at the end of it all. Right, and they're going to be able to be self-sufficient. Right, and no appropriate risk-taking when they become teenagers and young adults and they leave your house and they go off into the world. Right, you have a grade 11 kid. I do. 2 years, 2 more years and she's gone, right? Yeah. And she's going to have to make these decisions on her own. So I need to let her start making risky decisions now. Because no matter what, she's going to be doing it in 2 years. Like she'll be off. She'll have to be making those decisions herself without the constant watch of her mother or father. Yeah. So, yeah. That's it. All right. So that's it. That's all we got today. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found something valuable in today's video. I have some guest speakers I'm lining up. I've got a few ideas for people who are going to come and join me on videos to change things up a little bit, give some different perspectives on things. So please make sure that you leave me a comment if you enjoyed the video today, if you found something valuable in it. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where all these videos go to live afterwards. On Facebook and on Instagram. Instagram, they disappear after a while, so that's where you go to find them. And if you like something or it resonates, please like and share. Or if you have an idea for another topic. Yes, or if you would like to be a guest on a video, if you have a topic that you want to work through with me, that we can talk through and find out, I would love that. I can do it. You don't even have to be with me. I can do a split screen. So we can do videos remotely. One of my guests is in Alberta. We're going to have Rihanna come on. She has 5 kids, 3 triplets. Triplets, yes. Triplets plus 2. And the 2 were after the triplets. Yes, and I have some great ideas to chat with Rihanna about. So I think you guys will find very valuable. She's fantastic mom. Lovely. Yes. And so that's it. So thanks for joining us today. Again, that's it. Okay. Bye.